not, okay? For whatever reason, that the autos don't follow that same strict and rigid trichome color development chart. They don't go from clear to milky to amber. Some of them never turn amber. Some of them will stay clear. Okay, guys, I've had stuff that was at, 85 days, and I was like, what the heck's going on? Well, after growing thousands and thousands of autos, that what we found is that there are much better ways to assess the peak maturity of your autoflower than just simply looking at the trichome head, okay, and what color it is. All right, and so that I wrote an article about this for Multiverse, guys. So if anybody wants it, shoot it to me, and I can shoot it to you in text form. I actually printed it out right here, so I could follow along with myself. And so the first thing, so I'll just kind of read over it, kind of peruse over the article that I already wrote, guys. And so basically, in my opinion, trichome color alone is not the best way to tell if your plant's ready to harvest. I definitely recommend a more in-depth and overall plant analysis than simply looking at the trichomes, guys. Okay? The first thing that I always look at in any way, in any kind of harvest scenario or potential harvest scenario, is bract size, calyx size. Okay? And your calyx size and your bract size are going to be the first and main thing to let you know if your plant has got to peak maturity. And what does that mean? What does peak maturity mean? Okay, that peak maturity, in my opinion, is when the plant will actually has put on is the most weight it's going to, and at the highest overall cannabinoid content that it's going to ever be. Okay, and so the first thing I look at is going to be bract size. Are they fully formed? Are they fully swollen? Okay, guys, you'll see a lot of my pictures of plants that are grown in my own personal garden, ones that I grow for flower, when I did grow for flower, that you're going to see big, swollen, fat calyxes, okay? It's one of the things that almost always that really experienced photoperiod growers or growers in general will be able to tell the look of a photoperiod versus an autoflower is that bulbous calyx formation that I refer to a lot, okay? With my gear, you're going to see that. You're not going to see an angular or triangular shaped calyx formation. You're going to see more of a bulb, more of a bulbous shape, okay? And so, being able to tell that if it's fully formed and fully swollen, one way to be able to determine this, guys, is just take a feel of it. Squeeze the dang bud. Squeeze it, all right? And, I say this at the end of this article, but I'll go ahead and say it now just to kind of give you guys a little bit of thought process moving forward as I talk about this, okay? As with most things, when it comes to growing cannabis, it takes time to learn and is an acquired skill and a learned skill. Very rarely in cannabis cultivation do we find a one-size-fits-all method of doing anything. We're constantly evolving in what we know about what causes the change in color of trichomes and other things. So we believe this to be a more complete way of answering the question, when is my plant ready to harvest, okay? That, guys, some of these things that a lot of you folks, or this is maybe your first grow or your second grow, that some of the things that I refer to, like squeezing the bud or sticking your finger into the soil to know if it's watered enough. These are going to take things that are acquired, tactile things that you're going to need to acquire and skills that you're going to need to learn in the cannabis cultivation hobby, okay? And they only come with time. It is a generic thing, and I've said it for over a decade. The only way to really learn how to grow cannabis is to grow cannabis. I know that sounds stupid. I know that sounds cheesy and all that kind of stuff. But, guys, I learn stuff every single time. Every plant that I put in there, there's something else that, it seems to trigger or fire in my brain. And it's always a learning process, and there's never going to be a point where I've learned it all. Okay, but these are the things that I've learned over the course of the last decade and growing thousands and thousands of these autoflowers, is that we are learning that the differences and the subtle differences for these plants, the day neutral category versus the photo-dependent category. So we're continuously evolving and continuously, evolving. Okay, and so going back to the harvesting. So bract size, guys, take a look at the bracts. Look at it. Does it look like a dang nug? Does it look like a bud? Does it look like a bud that you would take out and stick in your bag and you could tell, does it look like the thousands of other buds that you've got 10 million times before? Okay, that's just the first thing that I look at, kind of the eye test. I watch a lot of sports guys. They have what's called what's up, Stevie Steve, Hippie Steve, baby, shout out to Oklahoma. The sports that I watch, they always talk about the eye test. It's not measured by any sports. It's not statistics or categories or data really to support it. It's just, how does it look, man? Do these dudes look good out there doing it? You know, do they look like it's easy? Does it the effort? Those kind of things. So give it the eye test, that bract size, the calyx formation. Is it swollen and fully developed? First. That's the first thing I look at, okay? Next is going to be the pistil recession, okay? Pistil recession, what does that mean? Pistil recession is going to be the recession of the pistils, the hairs, guys, the white hairs that are growing out of your plant. Once 90% of those start to die off, you can start looking at your plant as a potential time to chop, okay? Again, this is going to be a totality of these factors. This is not going to be any one individual thing, all right? This is going to be the totality and the sum of all of these things. I saw it, Jen. Ooh, I saw it. Getting close. One away. The pistil recession. So once 90% or so of your hairs go recessed and they start to retract, they start to turn brown, all right, that you can start to look at the rest of these factors, okay? That any of these identifiable factors, any of these things that we see as one of these things, you can go back and start looking at all of these other factors. Bract size, pistil recession. Okay, next is going to be leaf fade, guys. Leaf fade is going to be another thing that we use, and that's how we can tell how far the plant is from cessation. How far is it away from dying? All right. The leaf fade it's going to be when the plant's going to consuming those nutrient reserves in a last-ditch effort to stay alive. The process is this. This process is the same thing that happens when the leaves change on the trees in the mountains. When the leaves start to lose their green chlorophyll, it can turn all kinds of beautiful colors. This is another reason to make sure you let your cannabis get fully mature. The leaf color fade is always such a beautiful thing to see. Hey, 100! The picture of the Pappy's Secret Stash on the website is, man, it's so pretty. And I love it so much. And so that's just another indicator that you can use, and you can try to tell where the plant is in its life cycle. Okay? Again, you guys have heard me talk a lot about harvesting and drying and curing and how important that stage is. This is important to understand when your plant is fully mature and when you're going to get the maximum benefit out of it. And that includes medicinally. Okay? So, looking at the trichomes is going to be one of the most, by far, this is what we're trying to use as the measuring stick. Looking at the trichomes, guys, you guys are already used to it. You're already used to looking at the trichomes, but not in the way that you think and not in the way that you're used to. Okay, then instead of focusing on just the color, guys, that we always recommend looking at the structure of the trichome. A capulated trichome means it has a stalk and a head, okay? And specifically how that head is attached to the stalk, all right? Now, you're going to need a microscope or some kind of loupe that you'll actually need to be able to see this, and a pretty good microscope, and this is, you'll need to look at it pretty close, okay? But what you'll see is you'll start to see Michael Wildschultz actually put one of those charts, one of those color charts for the trichome heads on there earlier today, but it was actually a good example of what we're talking about here, okay? That the separation of that capulated stalk of the bulbous head from the stalk is what we're looking for. You'll see that as the trichome develops, you'll see the stalk head, you'll see the stalk, and then it'll start to grow a little bitty head, okay? It'll start to grow a little bitty head on it, and that head will get bigger, okay? And then that head and that stalk will start to, hush, little boy, the head and the stalk will start to separate from each other. If we look at fruit and all kinds of stuff in nature, this is one of the things that we use, and they use in all sorts of horticulture and agriculture and botany to determine the ripeness of things and how far along is in its life cycle and how close it is to the death process. Okay, and so like with a peach or a pear, it's when or an apple, it's when that stem starts to separate, cessation. It starts to separate from it. Okay, it starts to recess from that stalk. That's when you'll know that it's at peak maturity and it's in the that is the time to do it, okay? And so if you're gonna be looking at trichomes, look at how the stalk is actually attached to the head, and how we hey Chris, we're maybe we'll see. That look at how the structure of the trichome versus just the color of it, because one of the things again that we're finding out about ruderalis, and for whatever reason, and I've tried to wrap my brain around it a lot, that ruderalis and day neutral cannabis just doesn't really want to follow 109, doesn't want to follow along with the traditional path that's been set before them for trichome color progression. It doesn't go from milky to cloudy to amber. It just doesn't happen like that all the time, okay? And so there's thoughts, there's theories, there's a couple theories floating around in the scientific community that there's not really anybody really digging any research into it just yet, but it's the UV reactions inside that stalk head that are causing the change in color and cannabinoid transitions and progressions, okay? 112, did you see 112, Martin? Nice. So we see that the structure of the trichome head being more important with autos day neutral cannabis than the actual color transition. Some of them do. Some of them do go from clear to milky to amber, and you can use that as your guide. Do not let that be the only thing to actually guide you into when your harvest actually is, okay? That is that's selling yourself short, guys. Taking a look at the entire plant. Every person who has ever shown me a picture that's a blown up picture of a bud, you guys send them like this and are like, hey, is my plant ready? I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Y'all are the reason that I do this. But I can't tell anything by that. A, it's not close up for the pictures of the trichome heads, and B, it's not a picture of the whole plant. So the very first thing that I always ask is, take a picture of the whole plant for me, okay? And so that gives me an ability to assess these different things. Bract size, pistil recession, and not just pistil recession, not just have the hairs recessed, have they turn brown, but have new pistils started forming. Okay, guys, this was an issue earlier today that somebody wasn't real happy that I told them that their plant was done. It's okay. That's not what it's fine. That once you see the majority of those pistils recess, and then your plant starts shooting out new hairs, and you see that just all kinds of new hairs coming out, guys, that's a sign that your plant is done and it's ready to chop. Okay, that ultimately you have that's going to be its late flower stage rhodolization attempt to continue its life cycle by throwing out those pistils. And the next thing you'll see is you'll start to see foxtailing. You'll start to see foxtailing, and you'll also start to see Jason Daniel. Also, make sure you want to know you won plant of the week. By the way, I don't know if you saw that at the beginning. But yeah, looking at foxtailing, it's gonna start to foxtail. It's gonna start to get a lot of separation between those buds and those calyxes. Your bud's not gonna be as tight, okay? And so, if you start seeing those pistils recess, 90% of them, once they are recessed, it's a pretty good chance to start ready to chop, okay? And then if you look at the bracts and they're swollen enough, and then if you take a look at with your loop or your microscope and you actually see the capulated stalk and it's recessing from it's recessing from the actual stalk, the bulb receding from the stalk, okay, that you're going to see a much fuller plant, a much richer experience, a better yield, guys, because letting them finish, there's always been a saying, when you think it's done, wait a week. That's always been the kind of the saying, because a lot of people harvest early. There's 110, I see it. There's a lot of, people harvesting early out there. And again, that we have such an uphill climb, guys, with these autoflowers that we grow anyway, and people thinking that they suck, and people thinking that, they're this or they're that or they're whatever, that we want to give ourselves the chance and the absolute best that we can and give the max genetic, expression and get everything that these genetics have to offer, okay? That's what we're actually going to do, okay? And so and I've got some pictures of this, guys, where the trichome separation that I'm talking about it. I will make the post again where I'll combine the two and let y'all know what I'm going to do for 112 here. Woo! The trichome separation, leaf fade, pistil recession, and new pistils after the first recession wave. It's like economics. It's the first recession wave. Once those pistils have died down to 90%, and or you start seeing new pistils being thrown out, go ahead and chop it, guys. If the bracts are swollen, go ahead and chop it. If the leaf fade, if it's looking like a pretty fall tree, go ahead and chop it. Make sure that your trichomes heads are starting to separate and you're starting to see a little gap between, 114, nice. So we start to see a little gap between the stalk head. It looks like a mushroom is the best thing. And I tried to draw a picture, but I'm not even going to show you guys because it is terrible. Yeah, shoot over to Michael's group chat over there, guys. He's got a beginner's new chat. He made a video this morning about it to helping out all the new guys and new ladies out there. You can ask and get information from good vetted growers all the time. No, you do not have to drop the temps to change the color of Santiago. That is a lot of times it's a genetic thing. And it can be a temperature-induced thing, and you can get the anthocyanins to come out by dropping the temperature. But to what degree, I don't know. Yes and no. I don't know. No, I don't want to let you see the drawing because it looked. I might get kicked off Facebook for it because I couldn't do anything but make it look phallic. There was nothing I could do to not draw this because I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. And every attempt that I had at trying to draw a